These influencers are ruining everything.
They're ruining photography for sure.
They crashed something into the Leaning Tower of Pisa. They broke a statue in Florence. They literally pushed a pony off a cliff.
They ruined that Wanaka tree in New Zealand.
I've had it with them. We're going to talk, well, first we're going to tell a bunch of stories of influencers being awful so that we can all look down on them. But then we're going to reflect upon our own mistakes as photographers and
your mistakes.
Pushing the limits a little too far to talk about etiquette and how photographers cannot be total jerks.
This is the Picture This Photography podcast, and we talk about all things photography, even our own mistakes, often our own mistakes. And today we're going to be talking about all of those stories of things getting ruined in the pursuit of the best photo or video. Also, how you can not be that person. You don't want to be on the national or international news for ruining things. Let's get into it. But first, I want to take a moment to thank our sponsor, Squarespace. Whether you need your own website, portfolio, store, gallery, a place to book appointments, or anything else, you can make it happen with Squarespace. And it's so fast and easy. You drag and you drop your pictures in, and your website can be up and running in minutes. And it's free for 14 days with the trial. So go to squarespace.com/Chelsea, and when you decide you want to buy it and keep it and have it as your own, use the coupon code Chelsea to get 10% off. That saves you money, Tonys. You know how much 10% is?
I know, I have no idea.
It's percents, and you're saving cents.
Okay, the coupon code is CHELSEA. Thank you, Squarespace.
All right, let's start with the latest story, because there's this very famous, charming farm in Vermont called Sleepy Hallow Farm. The owners of the farm are shutting down the road to their house because so many influencers are taking pictures.
And when I saw this story, I called you over and I said, we've been there, right? And you're like, yeah. Like, we met like 15 years ago and we took a trip to Vermont. And I swear it wasn't intentional.
No,
I was a photographer then, but we just kind of went down this dead-end road exploring, and we're like, oh my God, look how cute this place is. Yeah. And it's like a one-lane road, but I just kind of pulled over a little bit and parked the car and pulled my camera out and just took a bunch of pictures. So to see it pop up in the news as a place that is now so famous, they had to shut it down.
Yeah.
I actually felt a little bad. I was like, oh, I guess I was technically one of those people.
Well, no. So in the article, the homeowners say that photographers have always been going there, that they're typically pretty responsible, but they said about 5 years ago there was this like boom in photography and video activity on their property. People were relieving themselves on the property, trespassing, leaving behind garbage, getting their cars stuck on the side of the road. So it's recently become a problem, and so now they're having the local police like shut down the road during peak foliage season just to keep people out. So this beautiful location that's been enjoyed for many, many years has been ruined by disrespectful people.
People or influencers?
So I think that we just need to like blame everything on influencers, because it's definitely not photographers doing anything wrong.
Yeah, I'm not clear what the difference is between somebody who's taking pictures and ruining stuff and they're an influencer, and those people being I don't know the difference between a photographer and an influencer, because they seem like they go through the exact same thing. These were photographers behaving badly, so they just called them influencers.
I don't think it's like, well, so the homeowners were the ones that did that. They called them TikTokers specifically. Think more widely if we're like being derogatory towards someone taking video or pictures, they're an influencer. I don't really know the distinction. That could probably be a whole other podcast. But obviously I'm being sarcastic. It's not just influencers. There have been disrespectful photographers before influencers existed, right, or the term existed. I have to say, like, just reading about these stories and planning this podcast together, it kind of made us reflect on our influence. Mm-hmm. Because there have been times where we take pictures of something and say the location, and then that spot becomes popular.
I remember the first time we went to photograph the moonrise behind the Ledge Lighthouse. I had just sort of figured out how to use those apps that show you where the moon is going to rise and line it up on a map, and I was like, hey, I bet we can go to this spot and the moon will appear behind the lighthouse. So I got a 600 millimeter lens to make the moon look big and put it on my Canon 5 DSR. And we go down there and there's one couple sitting in one of those lifeguard stands, just sitting there waiting. Like they seem to know that it's going to be a beautiful moment. And there's nobody else on the beach at all. Yeah. And I get the shot and I love it. It's one of my most popular pictures. I have a huge print of it on the wall. But then we go back, the next year when the moon lines up correctly, and there's a couple of photographers there. And we kind of nod at each other. That was probably 6 or 7 years ago. Now, when I go, I cannot get a spot because there will be 50 photographers lined up.
Yeah, and I'll say that that was a shot before you got it. I had seen the moon behind the lighthouse shot, but pre-influencer, pre-everybody being on Instagram and everything, I think that it was like in the local gallery. We have a local gallery called The Hygienic, or maybe it got shared in the paper. It could have even been the Day Photographer, that's our local newspaper, is there often to document. Yeah. But it did not trigger a chain reaction of other people getting the shot. And so it makes me wonder what our responsibility is and what yours is if you have a large following. When is it better to not disclose a location? Now there I don't actually think it's doing harm, other than you ruined your own photo project by telling everyone what you were doing.
Right, because the accessible parts are generally mostly public land and, it's beach or street. So it's not like there's tundra being trampled or endangered species being harmed. Or
no, it's
so
like,
okay.
People are allowed there. There's ample parking. It's all safe. So that actually is fine, other than you ruining your favorite shot. But there's definitely going to be a time when we might get a photo people like that's not in a location that could handle more people if it were to get popular. Yeah. So that's something that we definitely have to question, and that you would have to question. Should I make this spot popular? What would happen if 50 more people were here? Those are things that we have to think about. And that especially happens, that becomes a problem in landscape photography all of the time. One example was the Wanaka tree in New Zealand, which was famous, and it was photographed respectfully by a lot of photographers over the years. And then one day they showed up and someone had lopped off the branches to the tree, like with a chainsaw, and they were washed up on the beach.
And I read that article, and nobody has any evidence as to who did this or why, but people still blamed influencers.
I blame them.
It's like, it was probably somebody on their TikTok for likes, but like, we have no idea. Just somebody was clearly a jerk.
Yeah, someone didn't do the right thing. Maybe it was some kind of tree hater. Maybe it was someone that didn't like everyone there, tried to ruin it, or maybe they just tried to change the composition by changing how the tree looked. I don't really know, but, well,
so point of etiquette, don't go chopping trees down, but obviously. But I will say, to a lesser extent, I have made very minor modifications to a landscape. For example, you're taking a picture of some mountains. You find a foreground subject, right? Like maybe there's a nice field of flowers. Mm-hmm. But what if there's a dead branch laying in those flowers, and you pick up that branch and you just move it out of the frame?
Did you do this?
Oh yeah, I've done that for sure. I mean, especially if you do like real estate photography or commercial photography, like you're always rearranging everything in the set to make it look just perfect, right?
Yeah.
And that instinct still comes to landscape photography.
Yeah, I've definitely picked a flower and then put it in the foreground. So I'm also guilty of marring the landscape. Not lopping trees off of branches off of a tree, but yeah, I've made those mistakes. And I think that at the time I had not considered, what if 1,000 people did this, and then every single flower would be picked and every branch would be snapped. And so you really have to consider what it would be like if everyone copied you.
Yeah. I've also made like a focal point by stacking up rocks, like you make a cairn of rocks.
That's not to be done.
Okay, it's not cool. I'll own up to that. Like if it's landscape photography, it should just be the pure thing. You are literally capturing the landscape. But the challenge is that these are competitive fields. Like somebody else is going to come along and they're going to be willing to break the rules, and thus they'll make a better picture.
Yeah. What happens if I want more likes? Can I build a cairn then?
Is there no modification? If there's a dead leaf blocking the flower, can you not move a leaf? That seems like it's okay.
Yeah, I guess you're right. I mean, this is, we're not claiming to have all the answers. I think that this is more of like a group discussion where people would have to give their input on what the negative impact could be. We have a friend that's a park ranger, and she definitely taught us a lot about leaving the landscape as you found it. Don't bring anything in, don't take anything out, don't take rocks, don't take branches, just leave it as it is. Don't make a little shape of hearts with rocks. Don't be carving things. Just pretend you were never there. Don't be peeing or pooping. You think that that's funny? You think peeing and pooping is funny?
Yes, I do. I think it's always funny.
People have left it out and about, and you could ruin a life that way.
Why are you laughing?
I'm not. Another example were the super blooms in California, and the LA Times did a whole story about how people were just trampling all the blooms and ruining them because they wanted to get pictures in the flowers, or photographers were moving their tripods off the trail and into the flowers to get a better shot. So it can be so tempting to want to get the best shot, the better shot, the closer shot, the shot with you in the flowers. But at some point, we have to consider putting the betterment of everything else over our own ego or our likes or whatever.
I'm going to call out every Texan, because every Texan has taken the family photo where you find a field of bluebonnets and you go and lay in it. I know I did that every year as a kid.
You did
every
that?
Texan, every year.
What year did you do it?
Well, I was born in 1974. Well, I moved to Texas in like 1979. So 1979 through like 1992 when I left.
I don't think there were influencers then, so I don't believe your story.
No, we were like 80s influencers.
Just influencing grandma's slideshow.
Yeah. But seriously, everybody took a family photo in the bluebonnets, and you'd lay in the bluebonnets.
You break it. You kick the
You put on
bluebonnets.
your matching white shirts and blue jeans with your whole family, and you go and they can lay in there.
You would
get
wear blue
disposable
in the
cameras.
bluebonnets?
Well, I was like 7.
I just feel
Why are you
like
criticizing my fashion? This is about the etiquette, not about fashion.
no. I just feel like haven't you ever heard of contrast in color? Like we're orange, we're yellow, blue in the bluebonnets is.
It seems like we're veering off the topic.
You should be in jail based on what you've told me here.
Well, I am not going to tell Texans to not lay in bluebonnets, because even though it's a long drive, they will drive up here.
They can drive.
And you don't mess with Texas.
I don't
all right?
mess with Texas. I never have. I never would. You guys do what you need to do. Okay, let's talk about drones, because I feel like those make people the most angry, and I definitely feel like that's when you violated Earth the most.
It's so tempting to violate with drones because there are so many rules.
There's a lot of rules.
And most of the time, if you were to skirt a rule, there wouldn't be any negative impact.
Well,
and
that's
sometimes
what-
if you just go a little bit to the side, you could get a significantly better composition and more interesting shot.
I think that that's what this man thought. Somebody crashed a drone into Yellowstone's biggest hot spring,
Oh my
is
God,
the title.
This is my worst nightmare.
Yeah, that's the title of this article. And you know, he would have got away with it too if he didn't crash it. I'm guessing it's a man. Don't come at me, but it just seems.
Statistically, based on what I know of our audience.
And drones. Anyway, I think most of the time you could break the rules, and if nothing goes wrong, you'll be fine, right? You fly your drone in a national park, no one's around, you think everything's good. Next thing you know, it's caught in a tree and your name's on it and your license number is on it, and you know you're going to be in the news. Do you think about that?
Yes, I have been so close to doing things with my drone so many times, and I think if a prop breaks, if my battery fails, or if I just go a little bit too far sideways, I will end up in the news.
So
and people would love to see my name in the news. For
I
doing
know,
something
they
like
would
that.
love to. And this is why public shaming is very important, because some people only follow the rules for fear of public shaming. Now, I follow the rules because I'm a good person.
We both laughed at that. I don't know what that says about you.
I don't know. Anyway, you have to be careful with drones. You should know all of the laws. You should respect the airspace, and you should respect your state parks and your national parks. This being said, that doesn't mean you don't have to get the shot. You can ask permission, and oftentimes by asking permission or getting clearance from an airport or something, you'll be able to fly where you want to, but you can't just go in impulsively willy-nilly. You have to do things the proper way.
Yeah, so the local state park here, Harkness, asked me specifically to get some drone footage of it. But you can't fly from state parks in Connecticut. So this was a unique opportunity for me to fly legally there. And I took them up on it, and I did get great shots, but wouldn't you know it, that's one of those times when things went south, because I was getting this gorgeous orbit of the main building there, and I was so happy with it. And I am close to the drone. Like, I am operating legally. I have line of sight, but you look at the screen for a little bit too long because you want to get everything lined, and then bam, I catch a tree limb.
Can I tell you I was under that tree when that happened and a guy walked by and scoffed?
So
you could have been in trouble.
It's a bad case if you hit a tree and then your drone crashes, but this time it just got caught up in the tree.
Yeah.
And so it's like 30 feet up in the air.
It was like, I was there, Tony. It was like, I could tell you were trying to fly it out of the tree or get it to fall, and it wasn't.
Well, can I say I've successfully flown out of trees so many times that that
had to
often
go
works?
back. Well, this time he had to use the skimmer from our pool and go back. But luckily you had permission. Nobody called you out. You wouldn't have gotten in trouble. But had you been flying illegally, it could have been fined or something.
Yeah, if it's entirely possible that if I'd crashed into a tree, it could have fallen and hit somebody picnicking or something. Like, I'd been careful to make sure nobody was around, but not everybody is that careful. People fly over cars and crowds all the time. One time I was flying over the Thames River, which is the correct pronunciation here in London, and the battery meter on my Phantom went from like full to like 1 bar, and then bam, it just shut off and just plummeted into the river.
Lost in the river.
There was nothing underneath it. Nobody was harmed. It rests with the fishes now. But if I had been over a crowd, a Phantom 4 Pro crashing from altitude into somebody's head, could have seriously.
It could really hurt somebody, and there's definitely instances of that. On a film set, a drone crashed into an actor, and the blades cut up his face. They were flying with permission, but that's just to show that they're dangerous.
I do think you have to ask yourself if this is both legal and safe, because it can be legal and still get injured, as that case shows. You should question, if things go wrong, is somebody going to be hurt, and then find a different way to do it.
Yeah. And some people don't have good judgment. Maybe ask a friend. Maybe ask your wife or your friend.
Yeah, and it's also really easy to overestimate your skills. Like, when I was doing that orbit, I thought I was a good pilot, or maybe I trusted obstacle avoidance, which does not work at all when you need it to.
Yeah, a few trees have taken down your drones with obstacle avoidance on.
Yeah, it does not work.
So even if you follow the laws of drones, though, there's definitely a difference between like doing something illegal and doing something impolite. And I think you also have to consider like if you're being polite in a certain instance.
So in the US, a lot of drones get shot out of the sky because people see it flying over their house and they think it's spying on them, and they assume it's illegal and that they can legally shoot it out of the sky. But the laws in the US are weird. Like, the airspace is regulated by the FAA, and their rule is pretty much, unless they've said you can't fly in this specific location, you can fly anywhere. You could fly 20 feet over somebody's house.
How far up do we own of our property?
Not, just basically not.
I don't own the air above my ground.
There's an interesting legal case where a farmer was like dusting his crops, and he would take off and fly right over somebody's house. And they sued, and it was the FAA's jurisdiction, and they said there is like no limit. Like, it is all airspace. If it is navigable, if somebody could fly through it, then they can fly through it.
But that doesn't mean you should. So you should definitely use your manners. Otherwise, you could end up on the Nextdoor app, which is like local social media. And people will be like, there was a drone over my house, or it could get shot down, or people will just be upset with you. So I also think there's other times I've been in peaceful locations and everybody's enjoying the peacefulness, and then it's like a drone going by, and it's you. You have to be considerate of that.
Well, but you do have to weigh it. But at the same time, I don't think you can say, okay, if this possibly inconveniences anybody in the slightest, then I won't do it.
No.
There are definitely times when getting a beautiful shot is worth it if somebody just hears a buzzing sound.
Yeah.
Because there are buzzing sounds everywhere. And even though it's an unfamiliar buzzing sound, it's not worse than somebody driving their Harley past, right? I was hired to film a March for Science at one point. They wanted drone footage of all the people because that was the best way to show how many people were there. But one lady got a little paranoid, and she asked what government agency I was working for.
Yeah,
and
but you
what
look
I
like
was
a
going to do with their
Fed.
faces, I do look like a narc. And I told her that was not the case, and I just kept filming, even though she was uncomfortable with it. So
Yeah.
I felt like the work I was doing was more important than making this one particular person irrationally uncomfortable.
And maybe that's a good example of when you should have like maybe a part of doing drone jobs is having like a written permission that you bring with you. So if people ask, you can be like, look, I'm hired to do this. I am a Fed. I look like a Fed, but also I film drones. I film marches for science. All right, coming up, we're going to talk about some more instances of when influencers go bad, when wildlife photographers go wild, and then, the rules, the etiquette. We definitely want to ask your input. But first, let's talk about our sponsor, Squarespace. You love
Squarespace
them.
makes incredible websites. And I have grown to kind of hate my own social media presences because Zuckerberg, Twitter, like they make profit off of the content that we're making. They fill it with ads, they cover it up with their own ugly design, but I want to own the content.
Yeah.
I want to create my own design. And I definitely don't want ads pulling potential customers away to other photographers. So get your own domain name, get your own space on the web, design it in literally just a few minutes. It's so easy that anybody can do it. And start at squarespace.com/Chelsea. Try it out, completely free, no credit card required. It's not one of those type scams. When you love it, the coupon code Chelsea will get you 10% off.
You will love it.
I
You will
love mine.
report back.
We both use it.
You will write us a letter and you'll say, thank you for the plugs. They're not annoying. I enjoy them. Some people rewind on the plug. They don't. Wildlife.
This is one of those times when I have definitely been the influencer and not the photographer.
Is that just what you become once you
When you
cross the
screw
line?
influencers are just rude photographers in this context, I think. But here's an example of when I was an influencer. I saw a red-tailed hawk eating a squirrel on the ground, like in snow. And I was very excited about this. And as a wildlife photographer, you always want to get closer. The closer you get, the sharper your picture is, the more interesting it is. And I thought I could move closer without disturbing anything, and I was wrong. I moved closer, the bird saw me, and it left. And I interrupted its meal. I wasn't able to bring the squirrel with it. It was probably too heavy. And I still remember that because I feel awful. I was like, oh God, I respect this creature. I wanted to capture it and be able to share it, but instead what I did was disturb it.
And it's hard too because you are trying to get closer and you don't know their comfort zone. Some animals are fine with you getting pretty close, some aren't. So you're right, there's no written rule. I don't know of a book where it's like, get 30 feet from a hawk, get 20 feet from a deer. Like,
in my old age, I have gotten better at assessing the little warning signs. Like you see them notice you. You see them change their posture a little bit. They're paying more attention. And as soon as I see any recognition that they're tracking me or uncomfortable, that's as close as I'm going to get. I'm just going to have to be happy with that shot, even though it might not be perfect.
I think you could probably make yourself feel better by realizing you're not the person who chased that pony off the cliff.
So these people wanted a picture of a pony, and they kept trying to get closer and closer, and it was backing away until it didn't see it, but it slid off a cliff and died. Then that's an extreme
Can you
example.
imagine not reading the clues? I mean, I wasn't there. I don't know what happened, if it suddenly spooked and ran off the cliff. I don't know, but...
Well, they're influencers. They don't care, right? But it has happened for as long as there's been wildlife photography. People push the limits. Things get bad for wildlife. Like throughout Hawaii, there's rules that you can't go anywhere near the sea turtles because so many people want to go up and take a selfie with the sea turtles that it harms them.
You know, we've had this experience before. So we get snowy owls that fly through our state once a year, and they'll be on the coast, and then people spot them, and a bunch of photographers will show up. So we went with a friend, and someone wanted to get closer and just chase the thing off. And so people inadvertently end up harassing animals. So you kind of have to ask the etiquette and know to stay back and know not to like chase an animal for the shot. And this one's really tough because I feel like most people really care and they don't want to upset an animal, but it's really difficult when you feel like if you get the shot, you're going to be boosting your career. You're going to be getting the most likes. You're going to put it in your gallery and the shot is going to sell, or like you just want to be the best and get the sharpest photo. It's hard to put your ego aside and put everything else or anything else first sometimes.
And a lot of wildlife photographers aren't doing it by accident, but they will cheat. And I've known 2 wildlife photographers, and one will go and flush the animals out so the other one can get a photo of the flying birds. Because the fact of the matter is, photography is competitive, whether it's landscapes or wildlife, and in any competitive sport, it's the people who work hard who win, but it's the people who work hard and also cheat. They will beat the people who just work hard.
So I need to cheat.
Well,
What's the
we
lesson?
see this in photography too. It is true that the cheaters sometimes win, but that's part of what ethics is. It's about being willing to make a little bit of a sacrifice in your ego or the success of your career for the greater good, for not having the impact, for being a photographer and not an influencer.
But will I get a reward if I try to be a good person? How many likes would that get me?
Yeah, maybe you have to talk, but people do like to look down. So maybe part of your story is you talk about how crappy the other photographers with the better pictures are.
What if I tell everyone how good I am? Sure, this shot is disappointing, but I didn't harm the animal.
That's a great idea.
Let's generally talk about some etiquette. I'm not going to claim that we have all the answers. If you know things we don't, leave them in the comments. But there's definitely some things. Don't bother animals or people. You shouldn't be harassing anything or anyone, right? No matter where you are, you should be leaving things as you found them, like not leaving any kind of waste, not taking anything, no vandalism, no carvings, no anything like that. Just try to be chill. We don't all need to know you were there, okay? Take a picture. That's fine.
If you're creating an amazing picture of a business that wants more people to go there,
Yeah.
by all means, tag them. If it's a place where they don't want more people there, maybe keep it a secret.
Yeah, I think you also just need to learn the laws of your craft, and this is obviously relates to drones because there's a lot of laws, but photography too. Like, I don't even think you could legally sell pictures of Sleepy Hollow Farm without permission of the owners because it's private property.
Yeah, we do have a separate podcast on copyright rules like that. It wouldn't be a criminal act. It would be they could sue you, basically, for damages of some kind.
And then learning the customs and the etiquette of where you're traveling to is always a good one. Like, I know people have gone to countries for street photography and that's just frowned upon or illegal. So you'll want to know if what you're doing is even legal where you are, or if it would be really upsetting to everybody there if it's just not something that they do. And then I also think that you just need to generally ask, if 1,000 more people did this, would it make this place better? Or would it be safe, or would it be good? I mean, that's a good one. All right, tell us what you think, what you've learned, people breaking rules that annoyed you, or people just being rude. Leave it in the comments down below. I'd like to hear it. Again, this is the Picture This Photography podcast, where we cover all things photography, news, reviews, camera stuff. Every single year we do the Best Camera of the Year award called the Pixel Awards. Yeah, that's coming up in a few months. So subscribe if you want to see more. And of course, thank you to our sponsor, Squarespace, for making this podcast possible, but for also making beautiful, easy to make websites possible. Go to Squarespace and try it out if you don't believe me. Go ahead, do it. Test me. You're going to love it. And go to squarespace.com/Chelsea. Use the coupon code Chelsea and you'll get 10% off.
Thank you, Squarespace. Bye.
Thank you, Squarespace. Thank them, the people, the public.